of Garstang's area right here, all the buildings he uncovered, all destroyed by fire. When you go there today, there's nothing to see of this area. It's all been excavated, and it's just a big, deep hole. Today, you walk through it as you make your way up to this little kiosk, and just in front of that are Kenyon squares, where she did find the burned layer from the destroyed city. And if you know where to look, you can still see that ash in the side of her excavation square. Here's another bulk drawing. The red shows the thick layer of ash and burned debris. The blue are the walls from that final city. And notice how they're tipped. Garstang and Kenyon both said they found abundant evidence for earthquake activity at the time the city was destroyed. Now, on the right is another quotation from Kenyon's excavation report. And she talks about this severe destruction by fire. She says the walls and floors were blackened, reddened by fire. Every room was filled with fallen bricks, timbers, household utensils. Most rooms, the fallen debris was heavily burnt. Now listen to this. But the collapse of the walls of the eastern rooms seems to have taken place before they were affected by the fire. The collapse of the walls from what? From an earthquake. Not only the city walls fell, but the house buildings inside, those walls fell as well. And what was the sequence? First, the walls fell, according to Kenyon, the archaeologist, and then the burning. The same sequence we have in the Bible. The city wall fell, the Israelites went in, they set it on fire. So every small detail given in the biblical record is borne out here in the excavations. Another bulk drawing showing some surfaces here, a wall, a street, a cobbled street. In Kenyon's bulk, just in front of that kiosk, there's that same wall right there. You can still see it today. It's in her drawing. And then the cobbled street right here, still there today, if you know where to look. In the rooms, in the buildings, both Garstang and Kenyon found large storage jars full of grain. Now you remember what the Bible said when the Israelites crossed the Jordan River? It was in flood stage because it was harvest time. These jars were full. Garstang said it's quite obvious the harvest had just been taken in. All the jars were full in all of the buildings. And so, again, the very time of year is verified by the findings of the archaeologists. Here's from Kenyon's dig again. Notice these large storage jars full of grain. Now, this is a very unique find. Grain was valuable, and it was normally confiscated. It was plundered because of its value as food, or if you had an abundance, you could trade it, you could barter it. It was like money. And so it was never left to be burned when a city was destroyed. The Egyptian records tell of coming into Canaan and defeating cities and plundering the cities and taking out the grain and all the other things from the city and then setting the city on fire. All of this grain was left here at Jericho to be burned when the city was destroyed. Why was that grain left there? We have no other instance of this kind of thing in any other city. Well, again, the Bible gives us the answer. The Israelites were commanded not to plunder Jericho. Jericho was to be offered up as the first fruits as they came into the promised land. It was devoted to God, given over to the Lord. Except for those precious metals, they were brought out, put into the Lord's treasury. And so again, even something as insignificant as grain proves and supports what the Bible tells us about the fact that the Israelites did not plunder the city. Now, the grain tells us something else as well. The fact that these jars were full shows that the siege of the city did not last very long. Otherwise, the people would have eaten that grain. They would have used it as food. But these jars were full. showing the siege was very short. Again, in agreement with the Bible, which says the Israelites marched around the city 7 days, then the walls fell, the city was burned by fire. So what was once a Bible problem, really now, all of this archaeological evidence, when properly interpreted, supports the truth of Scripture. Well, just a couple of other references as far as the time of year. You remember the stalks of flax where Rahab hid those spies? Well, when you harvest the flax, the first thing you do is lay it out to dry, and that's what she was doing. So that shows it was the springtime, it was harvest time, and then also the Israelites celebrated Passover. When is Passover? March, April, spring of the year, harvest time. So we have all these references indicating it was the spring of the year, it was harvest time when the Israelites destroyed the city, and the archaeology backs that up. And then in chapter 6 of Joshua 17 and 19, again, the command not to plunder the city. Well, how did the walls fall? You hear all kinds of ideas, preached from the pulpit many times, the sound from the trumpets and the shouting, the marching feet causing the earth to shake. And I heard one preacher say the angel of the Lord that appeared to Joshua pushed the walls down into the ground. All of these things, no matter what interpretation you might take, I think it was the earthquake controlled by God, but whatever you might think about it, the answer is really here in Hebrews 11:30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the people had marched around them for 7 days. The people, in spite of the impossible situation, inside of these monster walls, the Canaanites had food, they had water, it was inside the wall, their spring was inside the wall. They could have held out probably a couple of years inside. But the Israelites obeyed God, didn't they? They did exactly what He said, marched around those walls, even so I imagine it seemed like a stupid thing to do at the time. They did it. They believed God, they trusted God, and God gave them the victory. That's a wonderful spiritual lesson for us today as we face the problems of life. If we trust the Lord and follow the Lord and believe the Lord, He will give us the victory.